The hot sun bore down on the bustling market of Ibadan. The air was thick with the smell of roasted corn and spices. Children played around the stalls while traders shouted trying to sell their goods. Among them was Bola, a young girl with deep brown eyes and a worn-out dress that had seen better days. She moved with careful precision, her eyes darting from stall to stall. She approached a table stacked high with bread, her heart pounding in her chest. The shop owner, an older woman with a stern face, watched her closely. Bola's fingers hovered over a loaf as if deciding. Her hand shot out, grabbed the bread, and she bolted. The owner shouted, "Thief! Thief!" A few men chased after her, and she ran as fast as her legs could carry her, ducking and weaving through the crowd. Bola dashed down an alley, her bare feet kicking up dust. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and her sides ached. She darted between two buildings and found herself in the familiar surroundings of her small compound. The sound of footsteps grew louder behind her. She quickly hid behind a water drum, clutching the bread to her chest. The voices of the pursuers echoed past her home, and she waited until the shouts were no more. Her younger brother, Tunde, peeked out from the doorway, eyes wide. "Did you get it?" he whispered. Bola nodded, and he smiled weakly. She handed him the loaf, her hands trembling from the adrenaline rush. "Eat," she urged. "Ma won't be back till evening." Just as they sat down to eat, a shadow fell over them. It was the shop owner, her face a mask of anger and something else, determination. "You can't hide from me, girl. I know where you live." Bola stood, placing herself between Tunde and the woman. "Please, Ma," she pleaded. "I'm sorry, we had no food." The woman's eyes softened for just a moment, but quickly turned hard again. "You think that gives you the right to steal?" she chastised. "No," Bola replied, her voice barely a whisper. "I had no choice. My siblings were hungry." The woman looked from Bola to Tunde, and the harsh lines on her face shifted slightly, a mixture of anger and pity. "Bring me to your mother," she demanded. Their mother returned later, weary from a day's work. Bola explained what had happened, eyes downcast with shame. The mother looked at the old woman, ready to beg for forgiveness, her hands clasped together. The shop owner hesitated, then spoke. "You know, stealing is against the law. I should call the police." Panic flashed across their mother's face. "Please, Ma, give us some time. I can pay you back." The old woman crossed her arms. "Bring the money by tomorrow, or else." She turned and walked away, leaving a trail of dust in her wake. Tunde tugged at Bola's hand. "Sister, what will happen?" he asked, his voice trembling. The next day, the children's mother went to the market to plead with the shop owner. Bola accompanied her, her stomach twisting with fear. When they arrived at the stall, the old woman was waiting with an expectant look on her face. "Have you brought what you owe?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "Please, Ma, business hasn't been good," the mother explained quietly. "If you could just give us more time." The woman's eyes narrowed. "Time doesn't put food on my table." She glanced at Bola, her expression unreadable. "Bring what you owe by the end of the week, or your daughter will answer to the law." Bola felt a lump rise in her throat. Her mother nodded, her voice breaking. "Thank you, Ma." Bola returned home, tears streaming down her face. That night, as her younger siblings lay asleep, she whispered to her mother, "It's my fault, Ma. I shouldn't have stolen." Her mother wrapped her arms around her. "You did it for your family, but there are other ways, my child." Bola sat in silence for a long moment. "What if they come for me, Ma?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. "We won't let that happen," her mother replied, trying to sound stronger than she felt. "We will find a way." The week passed slowly. Bola's mother worked tirelessly to gather the money they owed. Each day, Bola peeked towards the marketplace from their compound, watching for any sign of trouble. The shop owner had not returned, but the threat of her promise lingered heavily in the air. Bola helped at home, keeping her siblings cared for, her heart heavy with worry. She carried the burden of what might come if they couldn't find the money. It was a weight no child should have to bear. Days later, Bola made a decision. She would not let her family suffer because of her mistake. While the morning was still cool, she pulled on her shoes and tied a scarf around her hair. She left quietly, only leaving a note for her mother. It was time to face her actions, but not without a plan. When she reached the market, she stood straight and called out in a strong voice, gathering the attention of the people around. People stopped to watch, curious about the commotion. "I am ready to pay for my wrong," she declared, catching the shop owner's eye. Bola took a deep breath. "I will work for you until the debt is cleared. You can trust me, Ma," she said, her voice shaking but firm. The shop owner stared at her long and hard, the market waiting for her reply. People leaned closer, waiting to see what she would say. Finally, the old woman sighed. "Work for me, you say?" Bola nodded eagerly. The woman considered for a moment. "Very well, you can work in my shop." The onlookers murmured, some surprised, others nodding at the resolution. Bola's heart soared with relief. "Thank you, Ma. I'll work hard, I promise." Day after day, Bola labored at the shop. She swept the floors, stocked the shelves, and greeted customers with a polite bow. All the while, she kept her head high, knowing she was doing the right thing. The shop owner watched her with a keen eye, seeing the girl's determination. One evening, Bola stayed late, ensuring everything was perfect. As she finished, the shop owner approached her, softer now. "You've worked hard, girl. You've paid back more than I expected." Bola was surprised but nodded respectfully. "It's what I promised, Ma." The following week, the shop owner invited Bola's mother to the stall. The seriousness in her voice made everyone around stop and listen. "Your daughter has paid her debt. She's shown herself to be honest and hardworking," she announced, pride mixed with something else, admiration. Tears welled in Bola's mother's eyes. "Thank you, Ma," she said, holding Bola close. "Thank you for giving her a chance." The shop owner nodded, then placed a gentle hand on Bola's shoulder. "You have a good girl here," she said softly. The crowd erupted into applause, and for the first time in days, Bola saw her mother's face brighten with hope. As the applause died down, the shop owner took a step back, her voice loud but kind. "And because of your daughter, I've also realized something important," she began, pausing to meet Bola's eyes. "Everyone deserves a second chance." The market was suddenly silent, all ears drawn to her words. "Bola, if you're interested, you can continue working here for pay." Bola's heart raced, a smile breaking through her tiredness. "Yes, Ma, thank you," she replied, her voice clear and strong. The shop owner nodded and looked at Bola's mother, who beamed with pride. The news spread quickly through the market as traders and customers shared the story of Bola and the shop owner. Bola returned home that evening, her heart light and full. Her mother embraced her tightly, and even little Tunda wrapped his arms around her legs, grateful and relieved. In the days that followed, Bola continued her role at the shop, growing more confident and sure. She worked diligently, knowing that with every loaf sold and every floor swept, she was creating a new path for herself and her family. Then came the day the shop owner called Bola aside. "You've done well, child," she said, a smile breaking through her once stern expression. "You've earned enough to cover what you took. Consider this the end of your debt." Bola nodded, gratitude washing over her. "Thank you for the chance, Ma," she said, her voice filled with genuine appreciation. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Bola sat with her family. "We're okay now, Ma," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Her mother smiled and took her hand, the squeeze conveying more than words could. They watched the sky, the stars beginning to awaken above them. But deep inside, Bola knew this was not the end. It was a new beginning, a road paved by her determination, and as she lay down to rest, a sense of calm enveloped her. Tomorrow promised new challenges, but now she faced them with her head held high and her heart renewed. As Bola lay awake that night, the little comfort from clearing her debt had quickly been overshadowed by the murmurs around the market and even heavier whispers that seemed to carry through the walls of their small home. The echoes of her family's desperation, intertwined with the gossiping judgment of their neighbors, weighed heavy on her heart, pushing restless prayers past her lips into the dark. "God, help us," she whispered, her voice shaky but laced with desperation. Back at the shop later that afternoon, the old woman watched Bola as she struggled silently. "Child," she finally said, "there's more to life than proving them wrong through force." Bola paused, caught off guard by the unexpected tenderness. "Ma, the whispers. They say we're no better than thieves," Bola said, her chest a knot of frustration. The shop owner nodded, her expression softer. When I was your age, someone had to point me the way to Christ after my own mistakes, she revealed, a humility in her voice that persuaded Bola to listen. The world may not see your change, but God knows the truth. The shop owner motioned Bola closer. We Yoruba say, Aki gabagbe ibi ti ati en bo, she quoted softly, speaking of the wisdom in remembering where one comes from, a reminder of resilience rooted in family and faith. Bola stared at the floor, her pulse slowing, a deep ache blooming in her chest. She thought of her mother, the strength she had shown every day, sacrificially, her silent prayers threading through every breath. Bola returned home, her steps slower, but her spirit lighter. She approached her mother cautiously, sitting next to her without saying a word at first. Her mother's steady hands were preparing supper, but Bola felt them delivering a life sermon through every chop and stir. Ma, she whispered hesitantly, the market talks. I want to fight back. Her mother paused, glancing at her with eyes full of wisdom. We are stronger when we leave our battles to God, her mother advised, brushing her daughter's cheek with a loving thumb. These walls, the whispers, they all crumble before him. It wasn't a perfect peace that enveloped Bola that night, but something akin to it, a reassurance, a bridge in the fog. She curled closer to Tunde as he slept, whispering soft prayers into the spaces where fear once dwelled, revealing freshly turned soils of hope that waited to take root. At the shop the next day, Bola's demeanor was different. Though whispered criticism still lingered in the air, she carried herself with a newfound strength, an invisible armor pieced together by revelatory truths spoken by both her elder and her mother. The old woman regarded her with an approving nod. You've decided peace, haven't you? She asked softly, eyes shining with something that wasn't quite admiration, but something holier, wiser. Bola smiled faintly. Christ peace, Ma, she replied. God is fighting for us. That Sunday, the family went to church together for the first time in weeks. The service seemed to brim with messages directly addressed to her heart. The pastor's words about forgiveness and redemption filtered through her soul like a lifeline, pulling her back to hope. Our chains fall away when we give them to Him, he preached, and Bola felt something in her spirit respond, as if a lock clicked open. On her next trip to the shop, Bola stood under the warm Ibadan sun. The shop owner recited words Bola now wore as her armor in the face of market rumors. How strong is the God you serve? The old woman asked rhetorically, and Bola replied with certainty. Strong enough to change me. In that moment, Bola realized that revenge had no grip on her anymore. The market could speak its counterfeit truths, but she would answer only with God's promises, real and unwritten. On the path home that day, Bola spotted some of the women from church. She approached them shyly but resolute. Sister Aiken, I heard you talking at church, she started, wilting under the weight of their scrutiny. We're trying to find peace at home. Through Christ more now. Her voice wavered, revealing the profound vulnerability that awaited scorn or redemption, but the women matched her candor without hesitation. There is room for all, Bola. God hears our cries, our whispers, Sister Aiken assured her, quiet grace in her eyes. Arriving home, Bola shared her burgeoning plans with her mother, who listened intently. She knew this was not just about clearing a debt anymore. It was generations knotted together, twisted until they tightened into the form of their own prayers turned into dreams. Her mother wrapped her arm around her, reconnecting interests shared not in verses but in sighs answered by God. We will face this together, she said, her voice filled with the certainty shared with heaven.
Thank you so much for listening to this intriguing story. I hope it touched you or taught you something. For more stories like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the page. And guys, if you'd like to see a part 2, or you have thoughts on what happened, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.